Panopticon-0. Recessed spikes of ferrofluid crawl through slashed skin folds, peppered across the face of an unlucky interlocutor. A man by the name of Terrence Balding was found smashed into grotesque geometric shapes, bones spearing from his flesh, bathing in his own blood. A secondary fluid was found, and yes, it behaved identical to the ferrofluid, with one exception. When broken down, this fluid reveals interesting properties. Light as a feather, black as night, similar to ink. The consistency of it was compared directly to water or alcohol, having no noticeable viscosity. However, when a human being is nearby, the fluid begins to magnetize towards it, and the bond of the liquid suddenly strengthens. This magnesis can be exacerbated. Even by adding a mere liter to its overall mass enables it to stretch across a 40-meter room and touch a person at the other end. A very volatile chemical as well. Although it seeks humans, it cannot always reach them without an obstacle. Any sort of physical contact with anything aside from skin or flesh causes this fluid to react. When it came into contact with the surface of the concrete ground, a massive crater was formed, with nothing obfuscating its cavitation, leaving a dent in the ground and the high-pitched wail of the explosion reminiscent of a scream. Violent and extreme, it quickly oxidizes and vaporizes, creating a thick black smoke above the concave floor. This happens with nearly everything, aside from glass that contains a wireframe mesh made of graphite. The liquid turns mute and cannot magnetize towards anything after that point. Now, when it comes into contact with flesh, it bonds directly to the skin. This bond is unbreakable, and a ticking time bomb, as was the case with Mr. Balding. When the fluid interacts with the skin, it begins to seep in. Slowly and methodically, it fills the cracks and dyes it to a vicious black. Most people cannot survive the process. And in the case of Mr. Balding, the story was no different. The fluid seeped into his skin, then reacted and burst out of his body, lacerating his entire side and blasting the chest cavity all over the wall. Some have the capacity to withstand the instability, and these people often acquire much tougher, almost perfectly callous skin. While you retain the ability to move, it is restricted in a very subtle way. This fluid was initially found alongside a current resident of Redacted, headed for Panopticon-0. We've discovered that you can manufacture it, thanks to the Theta program. However, it is important to note that the fluid contained inside our subject versus that of the Theta program are different. They behave identically in their overtaking of the human body and excessive volatility without a host. Its effects on those who survive is what interests us. Dr. Redacted has his own specimen, and we have ours. Subject name Redacted. Codename Tartarus. The effect he underwent versus the opposing subject was quite dichotomous. On one end, M4 suffered. Section removed. See log Theta 01. On the other hand, we have Tartarus, name given due to his method of assault. A skinny man around the age of 28 came from Redacted, the epicenter of this whole ordeal. Weighing in at only 120 pounds, he was sickly looking. Short, brownish black hair. During an incident in Sandusky, Ohio, 13 people were unfortunately killed in a large-scale anomaly. Lamia class. and around the same time as the incidents in the mid to southwest. Tartarus was found on the ground in a local restaurant, festering with jet black spines and spikes that tore apart the skin from beneath. He was lying in a crater about 3 meters across, and all around its circumference was a terribly dense smoke caused by the fluid discussed earlier. His eyes, nose, and mouth were bleeding the fluid, and he was promptly taken by the redacted and treated here. This is when his anomalous factors began to show themselves in full bloom. Watching the video feed of the establishment showed his uncanny movement patterns, which was used to elucidate what exactly was going on. All seemed fine until the feed was cut, leaving only audio at 08:27. We have numerous eyewitness accounts, of which only a few match up. The story that matched the highest was this. Tartarus entered the building at 0800. His gait was stilted and very loose. He seemed to be totally physically exhausted. He approached the counter and ordered a coffee. Without warning, the light behind him shorted, bursting powerfully and shattering glass all over the place. The whole restaurant fell silent, with only faint talking here and there. Tartarus didn't move, and after he got his coffee, he still didn't move. Later, he would describe the sensation as being stuck under mountains of pressure, with very uncertain and fluid motions of the arms and legs that his body tried to resist. Then, very suddenly, a loud hissing screech came from him, one he tried to hide. Before someone could ask if he was alright, his eyes suddenly seeped out the ebony ichor in excess. He cupped his mouth and shot backwards. Many accounts claimed he was trying to wipe off the liquid, or at least prevent it from leaving his face. Before long, however, a couple droplets hit the floor, and in an instant, the entire restaurant was gutted by numerous cavities and craters, with shifting, reactive smoke trails littering the place. 4 individuals were killed by the blast, completely crushed by the force of the explosion. The others were unfortunately victims of crossfire. Tartarus was not down yet, nor was he fully conscious of his actions. Like a puppet learning to move, he seemingly swam through the smoke and all around the restaurant. Unfortunately, our response teams weren't fast enough to avoid this. A tangent of individuals from Sandusky gathered with their own weapons alongside police officers. We do have a video of this, and you can barely see anything when you initially watch it. A large cloud of dense, jet black smoke began to crawl towards the militia. One by one, they were somehow taken by it. This was not clear until we could examine the smoke. We discovered that it is strongly reminiscent of the nerve gas sarin. The gas, when it comes into contact with human skin, breaks down the acetylcholine that surrounds the muscles. This may not seem too bad, but you cannot control your entire musculature if you are enveloped in a fog of sarin. If you inhale it, it causes your diaphragm to flex, making you suffocate on stillness. When the smoke cleared, it was evident that even sarin gas wasn't able to compare to this nightmare. The skin was dry and stretched, their flesh pallid and pale. Their weight had reduced considerably, and moreover, they were unfortunately moving. This smoke cannot kill, but can always sting. A lasting and severe impact on the body and the brain are invoked if you inhale this smoke, whereas sarin has an antidote and you can eventually recover from exposure to it. This substance is another story, It locks you in place. Not only are you paralyzed, but you are so frail that you can crumble under your own weight. Such was the case with each of these individuals. Completely galvanized from the inside out, they each fell to ashes. As such, we needed to contain him adequately. Attached is the containment procedure necessary for Tartarus's transfer.
Containment procedure T-02. Team redacted. Mission: transfer target to Panopticon-0. Target: Tartarus. Date: null.
Initial date set for October, pushed back to November due to the vessel having numerous leaks and dents. Target is to be escorted from his cell wearing a deadlock brace. Secondary pike brace with 6 5-foot control poles. Arms are to be locked behind the back with cuffs. Each cuff must have 2 5-foot control poles attached at any time on either side of the wrist. The cuffs must be attached directly to a back brace, which will connect back up to the deadlock brace. Feet must be locked into lead boots with very little control over the ankles. Minimal maneuverability with this setup. Excessive force is allowed. When transferring target from his cell, the deadlock brace must first be applied, with all 6 controllers putting his neck and back upright. When removing the arm braces, 4 officers must remain close by, with service pistols pointed directly at the center of the cranium. When the lock is released, notify other personnel. Constant contact must be maintained at all times. Armed guards will be ready in the event of motion from the target. When placing the feet into the foot braces, ensure target cannot see whoever is removing the restraints. Edit. Due to good behavior, control poles on the foot braces are unnecessary. However, he still must wear lead boots and must remain in constant motion throughout the procedure. The moment he deviates, the control poles are going back on his ankles. Doctor.
Redacted.
The vessel necessary for transfer is the SS Ashima, followed by 3 other vessels, the Atherat, the Arse, and the Malak. 2 to act as pathfinders, traveling about 300 meters ahead of the Ashima, the Arse being the furthest. Close by the Ashima will be the Malak to assist in interference. We are entering a
redacted
classified anomaly, so wearing your beryllium-coated helmets is a necessity. We will be between
redacted
for about 40 minutes, with the whole operation taking around 3 days to complete. The location where he is to serve his time is special, buried deep within the recesses of a planet none can pinpoint. While most know its visage, few know where exactly it went, as the entire system vanished out of nowhere. This planet is unique, harboring enormous undersea monstrosities alongside their hordes of freakish abominations. Humanity has managed to make one hell of a foothold despite these conditions, and many have formed large-scale colonies attached to the cave walls. The people of this planet were described as good-natured and incredibly helpful. Of course, our mission will not begin in one of these colonies. We are taking the L vestibule, so there are no worries of the populace bothering us. They don't go that deep any longer, so interaction will not be probable. Deep inside the oceanic planet is an infinite series of evolving chasms. Rarely does a route remain the same. Somewhere inside this planet is Panopticon-0, the place we are taking Tartarus. The Panopticon has been seen by a scarce few, but the cavern that houses it is well known. Absolutely massive. Many have reported quiet sonar pings throughout the region. Nobody has ever crossed it. And that is for a particular reason. In the center of this dome is the enormous Panopticon, acutely placed between two pillars that stretch from opposite ends of the dome. Between them is a space of about 10 feet. The pillars' sizes are unknown, and some argue that they rotate around the empty space slowly. Others reported the sounds of crackling stone and bending metal coming from either pillar at any time. Within this cave, however, is an unimaginable beast. One large, barotrauma-racked eye, similar to a human's in its construction, has been seen. Bigger than any submersible and capable of engulfing all settlements in its gaze. When this creature glides through its habitat, the currents rip and shred through the rock, forming a smooth surface on the walls. Anything it notices, it hunts, and not once has it chosen against doing so. As I've mentioned, the creatures on this planet are big, but nothing compares to the jailer. It can only live within its specific dome, and it has been spotted scrying in the center of the domes. Nobody has seen more than a few parts of the jailer, but all have described its skin as a pale and squishy blanket draped over mountainous spikes of cartilage. These cartilaginous pike ooze a terrible toxin, one which physical contact with results in
Redacted.
This creature is unlike anything encountered, and we cannot ignore its impact. Yet, we may profit from its gaze. We are going to enter the cave from a funnel just above either pillar. When we go into the cave, it will be fairly obvious which pillar we are scaling. The total length of the funnel is about 1,500 meters, and it's a straight shot down, becoming more narrow as time progresses. It is important to note that there is only one correct funnel. The other lies at the opposite end of the entire chasm. At the foot of the other pillar, this funnel has no ulterior exit, merely a lengthy route to a small cave. The funnel slowly and gradually decreases in diameter until it's just big enough for a person to fit through. Unfortunately for those who attempt to travel into said cave, they never come out. Reports claim an odd creature lies within, unique amongst the freaks of this planet somehow, and dangerous as hell. That creature we must not stir, so we must follow the correct tunnel. Take note, there will be no attempts to interact, enter conflict, or attempt communication with any creature. If attacked, you will respond. Note: please remember that the Malak is on its
Redacted.
voyage and contains a derelict crew. Don't expect their assistance for long.
Okay. Well, guess what? What it do, boo-boo? Yeah, it's me again. But you already knew that since the fucking start, dude. You knew it from the start, okay? Okay. Well, anyways, how's it going? Is it good? Hope it's good. Hope you're doing fucking sick, dude. But not like corona sick, cause fuck that. I mean like cool sick, dude, you know? Yeah, you know. You know. You know. Okay, well, anyways, that's the vid. That's it. That's how we do it. More coming soon. More derelict. More fucking every day, bro. Okay? Okay, you got it? Sweet. So, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, share, hit the bell. That one sounds pretty lame, but it's kind of important if you want to get the notifications that you're supposed to get for the subscription and yada yada blah blah. Well, alright, I'm about to take off and get back to work. I'll see all you little beauty booties real soon.
Any sort of physical contact with anything. Any sort of physical contact with anything is a tangent of individuals from fuck.